Manners should be mandatory. Do you believe your children are well-mannered when they're in your presence or even when they're not? Manners should be mandatory because manners are not old-fashioned. Manners are life skills. Teaching young children manners help them move through the world with respect, confidence, awareness, and overall self-control. Good manners affect how they are seen in school, in sports, and eventually in the workplace. Before people know a young person's, their heart, or their talent or potential, they often notice how they speak and how they carry themselves and how they treat others overall. Manners start with the basics and the foundation of saying please and thank you, looking people in the eye, speaking respectfully, not interrupting, being on time. What else we got? Holding doors shows manners. Showing gratitude and appreciation. Watching your tone. Listening without cutting people off as well. And most of all, I think what's most important is respecting elders, knowing how to act in public, apologizing when wrong. And one of the best starting points is teaching our children to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. Definitely the foundation. That simple habit can place children leaps and bounds ahead of other kids when it comes to showing respect and having manners. A lot of young men and women are being taught confidence, but not courtesy. We are teaching our kids to be bold, speak up, of course, and stand on business, but we are not teaching them enough on how to show respect, patience, humility, and consideration for others. Manners shape first impressions. And as adults, that's usually the first thing we notice with kids, if they're well-mannered or not. And that's usually what people say about other people's kids. And those kids are well-mannered. And that's just a fact, and it just shows how important and pivotal manners are. Overall, kids with manners, as adults, we are immediately drawn to them. And it's very rare that you see kids who really have the manners, just the basics, as I mentioned earlier, just, by saying yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. And I think that's something as adults, as parents and mentors that we definitely need to bring back. Poor manners, we know, can cost opportunities, bad attitude, disrespectful tone, interrupting others, or not knowing how to act in public can hurt a young person in school, sports, work, and relationships. And I definitely want to put some emphasis on kids and how they act in public, knowing their surroundings. And I've talked about this before in previous vlogs. It really hurts when you're out and you see these young kids, they're being disrespectful, they're cursing, and they're not reading the room. And that's something I know when I was a young adolescent, that's the first thing we did. We read the room because you just wasn't going to cut up and act a certain way with people around you. When you're in a closed environment, that's a possibility. When you're with your friends, you turn up a little bit. But when you're outside in public at restaurants, in public facilities, you definitely have to make sure you're using your manners. You never know who's watching, and with the cameras in cell phones now in this day and age, you definitely have to be responsible when you're out in public. I think our kids lose sight of that. Manners are about being more polite. And when you're more polite, it teaches self-control, awareness, emotional discipline, and respect for the people around you. Using kind words as well is one of the first signs of respect. And I'm just surprised by how many young kids disrespect each other by calling each other names, teasing each other, trying to embarrass each other, and putting each other down. That behavior can happen between boys and girls. And it goes both ways, for both sides, of course. And you just be surprised on how bad it gets. Like, I know when we were younger, we cracked, we ran them. That's what we call run them. We do that now as adults, it's me and my friends. But to see it at the level of some of these kids now is just disrespectful. The main point that I see with the kids, talking about the kids, is whether it's dealing with fashion, those who don't have, dealing with how they're dressed, what shoes they got on. And as parents, I just think we need to do a better job as well on teaching our kids that everybody ain't able. And I think it's important for the parents to let our kids know that you didn't have hardworking parents. If we weren't blessed, that could be you. that's less fortunate. And that's just a reality. I think a lot of our kids need to humble themselves. And that's a problem I see now when you get the kids talking about one another. It's more so, I mean, we did it for the fun back in the day. I mean, we would make up anything and talk about you. Uh, and it'd be the smallest things, and we can talk about you. But now it's more so of the fashion on what they don't have. I just don't think that's fair because the kids' parents could be going through something, which is 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. We must teach our children that manners also include offering help when appropriate. Example with my kids, they have to offer their seats. But with my eldest, he's at that age where I've been taught him, and he's pretty good at it. I watch him that if we're out and about and it's someone elderly, he got to get up out of his seat and offer his seat. Most importantly, of course, women open the door for the ladies. Well, in general, but most importantly, the ladies. And also making sure that women are safe in general. I feel that that's a man's job, is to make sure they're comfortable, and putting those small habits in them now can definitely be fruitful later on. And I'm sure as he grows older, he'll get a better understanding. Another one is groceries. When the lady pulls up with the groceries and she walk in the house, they automatically know they got to get up and go get the groceries. And you'd be surprised on how many kids just let their mom or their parents buy the groceries, then bring the groceries in. Nah, you need to be standing at attention, waiting for them groceries to hit the door to go get them bags. And it's just my personal opinion. But leading back to bringing that back, that side of it back, where as parents, we need to make sure the small things turn into big things later on. And it starts with the small habits. It starts with the small habits that we pour into them so we can see the fruition of it later. Another big one is walking their aunt to the car. Like my eldest, my sister comes over. That's his job when he's here, to walk her to the car at night, of course. Just to make sure she's cool and she's safe. I'm pouring that into him now, so when he gets older, he has a better understanding of why. And it's just habit. It's a natural habit for him. And, it becomes muscle memory. But overall, protection for the ladies and making sure that the ladies are comfortable. That's definitely something that I practice in my household. Speaking clearly and being respectful to elderly people and seasoned seniors. That's what I like to call them. That means looking them in the eye, speaking clearly, knowing when slang is not appropriate. What young kids practice at home will definitely show in public. If they learn the basic respect, gratitude, and accountability at home, they are more likely to carry those habits into the real world. So most of all, we must teach our young men to be protective, as I just mentioned, not controlling, but protective, especially when it comes to women and special needs children. Very important to recognize that. And just treating them with kindness, patience, manners, and respect. You'd be surprised how many of our young kids, they don't recognize special needs. And it can come off as disrespectful, and it can come off as careless. So having those conversations with our youth, making sure that they recognize special needs children are important, and special need adults as well. I think that's something that we don't practice enough or teach our kids enough to be aware of. I'll discuss now some real life applications and action steps parents can start with. Teach your children how to greet adults and speak respectfully. Teach them how to act at the dinner table, of course, because dinner manners help develop self-control. Paying attention to how they speak when they are upset, because that shows emotional control. Watching how they respond to correction, because good attitudes matter overall. Teaching our young men how to treat women with respect. Teaching children how to treat elders, servers at restaurants, teachers, coaches, and teammates, because that shows character overall. Teaching them to say thank you when someone helps them, showing their gratitude. Teaching them not to interrupt, but to listen, because that shows patience and also self-control. Learners start with us as adults and we must be consistent. As I mentioned before, one of my favorite sayings, what they see is what they'll be. We must lead by example. Our children are watching us. What they see often they become. Young men definitely need to see adults say please, thank you, excuse me, and I apologize. They need to see adults listen, speak respectfully, and handle corrections the right way. Manners are caught as much as they are taught. So parents, mentors, we gotta lead by example. Another aspect of leading by example as parent and mentor is we have to correct disrespect immediately and clearly. We must correct the small bad habits early so they know what to expect later on. And I give you an example. Dealing with my son. My eldest son at the time, he had a problem with always saying, yeah. So I'll be like, hey son, can you go get X, Y, and Z? Yeah. Or did you do X, Y, and Z? Yeah. And of course, the correct saying should be yes. But for some reason, it was a struggle for him to get over that. He didn't really see how important it was and how it can also come out disrespectful. And he didn't see the value of saying yes instead of yeah. And small things can make a difference because I definitely didn't want him in public, whether it's at an interview or whether he's coming in interaction with someone and they ask him something and he says, yeah, he needs to say yes. So small little tweaks like that are very important in correcting our kids and staying on top of it. And it's funny. So at times he would, he wouldn't even know it, that he was doing it intentionally. Of course, to make the correction, I would just say, hey, how about this? Go upstairs. Cause he'd be like, well, what I do? Go upstairs and, think about it. And then when you come back down and you figure out, let me know what happened. And I think that was a good way to get to him, to let him know to go in his room, sit back and reflect on what he possibly said. And usually when he thought about it, he would come back down and be like, okay, I see what the issue was at hand. So again, this is the small things. I know to some people that's frivolous, but that goes a long way. I want my son to be able to speak respectfully and with manners, and especially to be able to speak as a man when he enters the real world. And when he's alone, when he's by himself, I'm not going to be there to correct him. His parents aren't going to be able to correct him, so he has to learn now. Also, the rude tones. Don't let the rude tones, the interruptions, ignoring people, being dismissive, that dismissive behavior our disrespectful comments slide, y'all. We have to hold them accountable. Small habits eventually can turn into bigger habits with character problems later. And children need to understand that manners are not just something we use when adults are watching. Manners are part of who we are becoming, and that's just the reality. We also have to help young people understand that manners affect relationships, opportunities, and how people respond to them. Manners are part of being charismatic. That's what I feel, and it's definitely a tool for success. Um, as I mentioned earlier in this vlog, to me, a lot of younger kids, all they gotta do is say yes, ma'am, yes, sir to me, and I'm already locked in. And it just shows, hey, this kid um was brought up right. This kid was taught something, definitely taught manners. So parents, we should always practice the basic manners in everyday settings with our children. And it should be mandatory. And the basis can start with our children at home when we're out in public outings, correcting our kids, at family events, during conversations with elderly people. Of course, at school, at restaurants. One thing we let our youngest son do is we let him order his own food. And with that, shows leadership, and it shows him how to project, of course, when he needs to speak up. And we also make sure he ends with please and thank you every time he requests something. We just want to make sure the kids are locked in with manners. And we want to make sure that they can take these manners into the real world. So we have to be able to recognize those as parents and mentors, those moments, and capitalize on them and just make sure they're teachable moments. We must definitely teach young men that having manners, it don't make you weak. It's actually a sign of strength. Manners show maturity, they show discipline, they show confidence. Overall, it shows respect. And like I mentioned, it's truly that key that unlocks the magic when you're building relationships with other people. A child's manners should show up in how they honor older people and how they treat people with special needs, as I mentioned earlier, and how they treat people who may not be able to do anything for them is important. I think that goes a long way with teaching people just to have manners. Respect is not just for people you can benefit from. Real character shows in how young people treat women, elders, servers, teachers, teammates, and people they are expected to honor. Now we're going to transition to the top places youth should use their manners. One, of course, is at home. Home is the first training ground. Children should practice saying please, thank you, excuse me, of course, and apologize to their parents, siblings, and family members. If they don't practice respect at home, it will be harder for them to show it in public. Of course, at school, students show use of manners with teachers, other staff members, classmates, coaches. That includes raising your hand, listening without interruptions, following directions, and speaking respectfully. And just showing appreciation. Also in public places, restaurants, stores, community events, churches, parks, public spaces require manners, period. Children should know how to speak to adults, wait their turn, of course, hold doors, say thank you, and avoid loud and disrespectful behavior. Definitely around women, elders, and as I keep mentioning, special needs children. Young people should be taught to treat women, elders, and special needs children with respect, period. That shows patience and kindness. This includes using appropriate language, offering help when needed, not teasing, not embarrassing people, and being protective without being controlling. In sports, activities, team environments, manners in competition, you should be, of course, respectful to coaches, teammates, opponents, referees, and volunteers. Good manners show leadership, of course, discipline, sportsmanship, and overall emotional control. Manners should be mandatory because they help prepare our children for life. Confidence without courtesy can become arrogance, and strength without respect can become control, and talent without manners can cost opportunities. So we need to teach our children manners. So we definitely have a job to do, parents and mentors, and that's the first thing is to teach our children manners. We're not just teaching them how to be polite. We are teaching them how to move through the world with respect, discipline, awareness, and character. And that is what raising humans together is all about. We are not just raising children to be successful. We are raising them to be respectful, responsible, and just ready for the real world. You guys know, per usual, I like to end with the quote for the day pertaining to the topic of the vlog. Good manners open doors that talent alone cannot. I say it again. Good manners open doors that talent alone cannot. It does not matter if someone is a billionaire or if someone has fallen on hard times for me. Manners still go a long way. And I don't say that with any disrespect because people go through hard times in life. But personally, I would rather have a conversation with someone who has nothing but manners than someone who has everything and does not know how to treat people. That's just me. And to me, that's how powerful manners are. Manners allow people to talk, of course, connect, listen, show respect. Talent may get attention, but manners can help build relationships, trust, and opportunity. Parents, my call to action is this. Teach one basic manner this week, just one, and make your children practice it daily. Just one. And it can be something as simple as saying yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. What else would be a good one? The basics, please, thank you, excuse me, I apologize. Those words may seem small, but they're so foundational. They can take our children definitely a long way. And teaching manners, it does not make our children weak. As I said earlier, it teaches respect, it teaches discipline, and teaches awareness. It also teaches them how to carry themselves around adults. Somewhere along the way, it seems like many children have lost that foundation. Coming up, many of us were taught that when you spoke to adults and elders, you use words like yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. And that was just basic respect. Now we have to be intentional, to the parents and mentors on bringing that back. We have to be. Pay attention this week to how the young people in your life speak to people, especially at home. And once you notice it, correct it. It don't have to be with anger, but with some guidance. Don't dominate the moment as a parent or mentor. Lead the moment. I think that's important as well. We want to make sure they get the understanding because sometimes if we yap and yap, yap, they cut off. And we know that. So just lead it, something as small as your kids, your children friends showing respect. I'm huge on that. I remember years ago, my son friends would come over and they wouldn't even speak. So it got to a point where, they would come in and I'm like, well, hello. And I would tell them, okay, well, let's try this again. And I'll make them go back outside. And then once they come in, they already know what time it was. Oh, I forgot to speak. Absolutely. And it's things like that we definitely have to bring back, especially when you go into someone's home and enter someone's home. You got to speak to the people who own that house and that establishment. That's very important to me. And not only just me, they got to speak to the lady as well. They got to speak to the wife. Hey, my wife in there, y'all go speak to her. Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. So again, these little key fundamentals, these key habits, we have to teach them. And like I said, I'll make the kid go back outside. Let's try this again, my man. And they come back in and they speak. Because you're not going to be up in my house watching my TV, drinking my juice and my water and my food and not speak to me. I'm definitely not playing them games. So, but it's the small things. And sometimes it's no fault to the kids. Maybe their parents just haven't showed them that or taught them that as for the aspect of manners. So it takes a village, and sometimes as parents and mentors, we have to step up. But it's these things sometimes that we're busy as parents, we get distracted. We're just trying to get through the day. We want our kids to be respectful, prepared, and grounded. We have to slow down and teach them the basics. The call to action for the week is to teach one basic manner this week and make them practice it daily. Make sure you also subscribe to Raising Humans Together. Share, of course, comment, and let me know what y'all think. We are here for real life strategies on raising respectful, prepared, and grounded young children. This is Raising Humans Together. I see y'all soon. Peace.